This is a timeline of Scientology, particularly its foundation and development, by author L.Ron Hubbard, 1938. L.Ron Hubbard authors a manuscript called Excalibur, which contains ideas that were later incorporated into Scientology. 1949. First published work on Dianetics appeared in the winter-spring issue of the Explorers Club journal entitled Terra Incognita, The Mind. At this time, he offered his findings on the mind to both the American Medical Association and the American Psychiatric Association. Both organizations rejected them. 1950s. 1950 L.Ron Hubbard's Dianetics, The Modern Science of Mental Health was published. In August 1950, amidst the success of Dianetics, Hubbard held a demonstration in Los Angeles' Shrine Auditorium where he presented a young woman called Sonia Bianca to a large audience including many reporters and photographers as the world's first clear, quote. However, despite Hubbard's claim that she had full and perfect recall of every moment of her life, Bianca proved unable to answer questions from the audience, testing her memory and analytical abilities, including the question of the color of Hubbard's tie. Hubbard explained Bianca's failure to display her promised powers of recall to the audience by saying that he had used the word now in calling her to the stage, and thus inadvertently froze her in present time, which blocked her abilities. Later, in the late 1950s, Hubbard would claim that several people had reached the state of clear by the time he presented Bianca as the world's first. These others, Hubbard said, he had successfully cleared in the late 1940s while working incognito in Hollywood posing as a swami. In 1966, Hubbard declared South African Scientologist John McMaster to be the first true clear. McMaster left the Sea Org in November 1969, expressing continuing belief in the Scientology tech, but disapproval of the way Scientology was managed. 1951 June, Science of Survival was published. 1952 Early Dianetics supporter Joseph Winter MD breaks with Hubbard, convinced that it is dangerous for laymen to try to audit each other. 1952 February. After learning that the Hubbard Dianetic Foundation of Wichita, Kansas would be liable for the debts of the defunct Hubbard Dianetic Research Foundation of Elizabeth, New Jersey, the board of directors, led by Dom Purcell, voted to file for voluntary bankruptcy over Hubbard's objections. Hubbard forms a rival Hubbard College, also in Wichita, and disputes control of the copyrights of the Dianetics materials. May. Hubbard publicly announces the formal establishment of the philosophy of Scientology and the formation of the Hubbard Association of Scientologists International, demonstrates the E-meter, and moves to Phoenix, Arizona. July. Scientology, A History of Man published. 1953 Church of Scientology, Church of American Science and Church of Spiritual Engineering incorporated in Elizabeth, New Jersey by L.Ron Hubbard. Co-signatories were Henrietta Hubbard, L.Ron Hubbard Jr., John Galusha, Verna Greenough and Barbara Bryan. Named as trustees of the Church of Scientology were L.Ron Hubbard, Mary Sue Hubbard, and John Galusha. 1954 The Church of Scientology is incorporated in California and Arizona. The Internal Revenue Service grants a tax exemption to the Church of Scientology of California. 1955 April. The Hubbard Association of Scientologists International holds the first Australian Scientology Congress in Prahran, Victoria, Australia. July. The founding Church of Scientology, now known as the original founding Church of Scientology, was organized in Washington, D.C. 1956. The Church is recognized as a tax-exempt religious organization in the United States. 1959 Hubbard moved to England and bought St Hill Manor in Sussex, from which he would direct international operations and expansion until 1967. 1960s. 1963 January 4, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration raided the original founding Church of Scientology and seized approximately 100 of the church's e-meters as illegal medical devices. The devices are now required to carry a disclaimer saying that they are a purely religious artifact. They are used in a Scientology counseling technique known as auditing. 1965 The Church of Scientology was banned in several Australian states, starting with Victoria. The ban was based on the Anderson Report, which found that the auditing process involved command hypnosis, in which the hypnotist assumes positive authoritative control over the patient. 1966 Narcon unfounded. 1967 The IRS strips the Church of Scientology in California, Scientology's headquarters, of its tax-exempt status, asserting that its activities are commercial and operated for the benefit of Mr. Hubbard, rather than charitable or religious reasons. OT3 is made available to Scientologists. This level of operating thetan contains the story of Zen News, which becomes a source of enormous controversy for Scientology from the 1990s onward. The Sea organization officially established December 27, the first advanced organization offering the advanced levels of Scientology to the public, was established aboard the Royal Scotsman, the flagship of the Sea organization. 1968 Introduction to Scientology Ethics is published. 1969 The U.S. Court of Appeals recognizes Scientology as a religion, marking the high point of the case of Scientology versus the FDA. 1970s. 1970 February 22, Church of Scientology Celebrity Center in Los Angeles founded. 1971 The FDA is ordered to return the materials and e-meter seized during the 1963 raid. 1975 Scientologists buy former Fort Harrison Hotel and Old Bank of Clearwater. Scientology is recognized as a non-profit organization in South Africa, despite the 1972 report of a formal government commission of inquiry that recommended otherwise. 1977 Various locations of the Church of Scientology are raided by the FBI. 1979 As a result of FBI raids, 11 senior people in the Church's Guardian's office were convicted of obstructing justice, burglary of government offices, and theft of documents and government property. December, an estimated 3,000 gather at Clearwater City Hall to protest the church coming to Clearwater. Across the street, Scientologists stage a counter-rally, dressed as clowns and wearing animal costumes. 1980s. 1980 Acquisition of the former White Rats Club building at 227 West 46th in the Broadway Theater District in New York City. The building was built in 1912 and the church acquired it from the Seventh-day Adventist Church. 1982 Clearwater's government holds hearings to explore allegations that the church is a cult. 1983 The High Court of Australia overturns the Scientology ban, declaring that the applicant has easily discharged the onus of showing that it is religious. The conclusion that it is a religious institution entitled to the tax exemption is irresistible. The Church of Scientology of Toronto is raided. 1985 The Church of Scientology acquires Yacht Bohème and renames it to Free Wines. 1986 January 24 Hubbard dies at his ranch near San Luis Obispo, California. David Miscavige, chairman of the board of the Author Services Inc., becomes head. 1990s. 1991. After the completion of a 4-year-long program to reissue the books and courses of Dianetics and Scientology, a general amnesty is declared for members. 1992 June. The Church of Scientology is found guilty on 2 counts of breach of the public trust in Ontario, Canada in R.V. Church of Scientology of Toronto and fined $250,000. 7 members are also convicted. 1993 December. The Internal Revenue Service of the United States grants full religious recognition and tax exemption to all Scientology churches, missions and social betterment groups in that country. 1994 December 24. A number of Scientology's confidential operating thetan documents are published on the news group Alt Religion Scientology through an anonymous remailer. This marks the beginning of Scientology's online activities, often referred to as Scientology versus the Internet. 1995 July 20. The Supreme Court of Canada upholds the largest libel award in Canadian history against the Church of Scientology. December 5. Lisa McPherson, a 36-year-old Scientologist, dies after 17 days under the care of Church of Scientology Flag Service Organization. Police begin an investigation the following day. 1996 The Church releases the Golden Age of Tech program with the express goal of improving and speeding up the training of its practitioners. The Church of Scientology of Paris is closed due to non-payment of taxes. A new church reopens immediately. 1997 February. McPherson's family files a wrongful death lawsuit against the Church. The Church of Scientology, operating as the Greek Center of Applied Philosophy, is ordered closed in Greece. Decision upheld in 1998. 1998 November. After reviewing the McPherson case for 11 months, State Attorney Bernie McCabe charges the Church of Scientology with 2 felonies: practicing medicine without a license and abuse of a disabled adult. Also, the church begins construction of the Flag Building, launching a $160 million construction project in downtown Clearwater, Florida. 1999 The Charity Commission for England and Wales denies the Church of Scientology's application for charitable status, ruling that it is not a religion and that there is no established public benefit arising out of the practice of Scientology. The Church does not appeal the decision. November. The government of Sweden declares that the Church of Scientology is a charitable, non-profit organization with a religious purpose. A year later, the church's ministers are granted the right to perform marriages, completing official recognition as a church in Sweden. Bob Minton, a banker critical of Scientology, starts a protest organization called the Lisa McPherson Trust. The organization picketed Scientology buildings on the anniversary of McPherson's death. The group was disbanded in November 2001. 2000 March. The Italian Supreme Court upholds Scientology's religious status in Italy while reaffirming that Narconon is a non-tax exempt for-profit business. Scientology ministers are granted the right to perform marriages in South Africa. In the United Kingdom, the Church of Scientology is exempted from value-added tax on the basis that it is a not-for-profit body. June. McCabe drops the criminal case against the church, noting that the medical examiner's change of opinion about the cause of McPherson's death undercuts the prosecution's effort to prove the criminal case beyond a reasonable doubt. 2002 The Government of New Zealand issues an official decree fully recognizing the Church of Scientology of New Zealand as an exempt religious and charitable organization. The Austrian tax office concludes that the work of the Church of Scientology in Vienna is for the public benefit rather than anyone's personal profit, and grants the church tax-exempt status as a charitable religious organization. July. A Paris judge rules that a 13-year-old case against the Church of Scientology alleging fraud and illegal practice of medicine cannot go to trial, due to lack of progress in the investigation. The judge rules that the statute of limitations has expired. 2003 March. The National Ministry of the Interior for Taiwan recognizes the Church of Scientology of Taiwan as a charitable religious institution, officially adding it to the rolls of the country's recognized religions. 2004 May. The Church and the estate of Lisa McPherson reach a private settlement. David Miscavige announces the Golden Age of Knowledge, a church program intended to make all Scientology materials available. It starts with the release of 18 congresses. 2005 The U.S. Department of State's 2005 report on international religious freedom announces that the Church of Scientology has been registered as a religious group by the Kyrgyzstan State Commission on Religious Affairs. 2006 Scientology applies for status as a religious confessional community in Austria, but later withdraws its application. 2007 In the next major step of the Golden Age of Knowledge program, 18 revised books and 11 lecture series are released. April. The European Court of Human Rights rules against Russia for repeatedly refusing to consider the Moscow Church of Scientology's application for the status of a legally valid religious association. The court finds that the reasons given to deny re-registration of the church by the Justice Department and endorsed by the Moscow courts have no legal basis. A Belgian state prosecutor recommends that a case should be brought against 12 physical persons associated with Scientology and 2 legal entities, the Belgian Church of Scientology and Scientology's Office of Human Rights, on counts of extortion, fraud, organized crime, obstruction of medical practice, illegal medical practice, invasion of privacy, conspiracy and commercial infractions like abuse of contractual clauses. The proposal is referred to an administrative court who is to decide at a later date whether charges will be brought. October 31. Scientology is formally recognized as a religion in Spain. November. Scientology is officially recognized as a religion in Portugal. December 3. South Africa grants the church tax exemption and issues a certificate recognizing it as a public benefit organization. December 7. German federal and state interior ministers formally expressed the view that the Scientology organization continues to pursue anti-constitutional goals and asked Germany's domestic intelligence agencies to collect and evaluate the necessary information that would be required for a possible judicial inquiry aimed at banning the organization. The move is criticized by politicians from all parts of the political spectrum, with legal experts expressing concern that an attempt to ban the organization would most likely fail in the courts. This view is echoed by the German intelligence agencies, who warn that a ban would be doomed to fail. 2008 Internet-based group Anonymous launches Project Chinology, a worldwide protest against the Church of Scientology, which drew about 7,000 people in more than 93 cities on February 10, 2008. November. Germany drops its attempt to ban Scientology, after finding insufficient evidence of illegal or unconstitutional activity. However, monitoring of Scientology's activities by the German intelligence services continues. 2009 Scientologists convicted of fraud in France. On October 27, 2009,